Testing. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Sound check. Music check? Hopefully not too loud. Okay. All right. I think we're live. Kind of. Still gotta do a couple things. Oh, right. I'm supposed to put this thing on top. New window. Yeah, so today's gonna be a bit of a a doozy. And by that, I'll post it in here. Let's see. Is this chat function? Yeah, so today's a special lesson where I'm gonna be helping a viewer. I hope that he comes on time. I don't know. I know that we're trying to schedule something. So last week, a viewer joined at the last minute to ask about matricizing differential equations. Oh wait, I gotta put on my face. And boy howdy, has it been an adventure in going back and trying to remember all this stuff. Differential equations, or ordinary differential equations, the easier one, relatively, is like derivatives. And derivatives is like really high-level engineering math. Like when people say they're a math major, it's this kind of stuff. And so, you know, it's hard. I was kind of hoping maybe it'd be like riding a bike and seeing if I can review some material on it. But you know what? We'll see. We'll see. I tried. I'll put it that way. But I do have some tips and tricks. And I did in the 9th hour, or I guess the 11th hour, find a very good source of really kind of understanding how differential equations work in a matrix with linear algebra. Kind of. Yeah. Oh shoot, only 4 seconds. Okay. Is everything working? I think so. My face, the music, the background. Yeah. Okay. So right now, please be patient while I try to reach out to the person in question to see if they're still up for me trying. I would love to say that it's going to be a fantastic success and oh yeah, we're going to knock it out of the park and he's going to learn, I'm going to learn, and it's going to be great, but you know, some of these things they're tricky. So I'll do what I can. Now it is going to be a bit of a minute though, because I am a kind of an old man. In that I'm trying to figure out how to. Oh, here we go. Whisper. Test. You know what? I should have done this like not during the stream. I should have done this like 10 minutes before. Ah, okay. Are you still available for covering matrix differential equations? Alright, and while I try to hear back, please give me a moment while I fix my settings and promote this mess. Yeah, sometimes it's not about always promoting your wins. It's like, oh yeah, this is a time that I was amazing and I helped this person and it was fantastic. Things worked out. They went from like a C student to an A student. Nah, so sometimes it's like, well, here's a way you can kind of talk and try to work things out. Yeah. Yeah. Alright, is this going through? Alright, meanwhile, what are differential equations, right? I think I should try to... Oh, shoot. I forgot. This thing's broken. Well, yeah, so I was having some issues with my streaming stuff prior. And I think that I am still having some issues with my streaming stuff. So please forgive me while I try to get Twitch to work. I mean, it is working, right? I mean, it's working and you're seeing things on your end. And now I'm just talking and talking, but that's fine. Okay, so this chat thing works. Yeah. This thing doesn't work. Alright, let me fix this. Okay, let me just write here. Ooh. By the way, I did solve a different issue. Random aside. I figured out how to prevent the flickering, so there shouldn't be any more flickering. But there's going to be now lag. It was a hardware acceleration. Sorry, I'm like jumping between like 4 different things. And I gotta mute that. Now, if this person doesn't show, then you know what? That's okay. I'm gonna say that that is okay. For whatever reason, maybe the time zones didn't work out. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they realize like, maybe this guy might not know. That's fine. Cause boy howdy, differential equations are hard. Let's see, how do I put it? So to kind of on a lower level, right? You understand things like, oh, pardon me while I multitask and talk about this. What is this thing? Oh. Oh, I see. Okay. Again, apologies for the delays, but just like how in math, you can go from understanding things like addition and the basic way in which addition works, you can use that to kind of understand multiplication, right? Where multiplication is addition, but more, right? And then when you understand multiplication, then you can understand things like... Wait, did I misspeak? Addition into multiplication, and then multiplication to division, where division is just kind of the same thing working backwards. And then you can figure out things like exponents, which is like multiplication, but more. And then you figure out things like algebra, which is like, you know, how to make a solve for a value when you don't have the stuff, and so on and so forth, right? So these math levels, they kind of add up on one another. Now, normally, when you have these kinds of things with things like kids, right? You really kind of focus a while on some of these subjects. You kind of stick with them because these are so important to learn to understand the next steps, right? Which is great. But when it comes to things like algebra, again, you can kind of stick with it, but then it gets a little spread out. It gets a little into the weeds where You maybe learn stuff about geometry, trigonometry, functions, and then they kind of converge later on. And I should be drawing this stuff as I speak, but I'm trying to fix something. Oh. So give me one more minute as I try to solve this thing. I should have done this way earlier. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. Alright. So let me do a bit of drawing while I do this. So you learn from addition into multiplication into division, and then it kind of branches out into trigonometry and well, actually unit circles. I mean, they're related, right? They're kind of the same thing, but they are technically different ways of looking at the same thing, right? And then there's functions. Okay, all right, cool. But then when it comes to like the college level, then these things, they still kind of come together, right? You see how trigonometry is used to solve unit circles. You see how unit circles are part of functions, and then you kind of mix things all together. But when it comes to like the upper levels, then it kind of does this weird split again, where you have things like linear algebra. And then you have these things like derivatives. Actually, I could probably use symbols, but I want to write these out. Alright, and you have these things like, I don't know. I guess, like using, I shouldn't say using software. Although it's more like statistics. You know what, I'll just put software. Might as well, right? Because normally you would use like a calculator. And even up until a lot of this, you would use a calculator. But here you do kind of software stuff. And boy, I just cannot get this thing working. And did I get a response yet? No. Okay. Hey, that's fine. I am okay with this. Although I think a lot of the advice I would help him with is, well, I'll get to that in a moment. Okay. Anyways, so with higher level stuff, it kind of goes there, right? But then, because of the college curriculum, right? Because it's only like 4 years, and because it's in like semesters or quarters, a lot of these things are like condensed. So instead of being like a, you know, something that you just sit with for a long time through elementary, for something that you just kind of slowly break apart and then merge together in high school, in college, you got like these things going at you a mile a minute, right? Like every week is like a new chapter. And so then you got like this kind of hairy stuff where you have to learn all these different ways in which, well, I shouldn't do it like this. I should do derivatives outwards. Yeah. Like derivative just like splits into all these different parts and pieces. And there's all these little formulas you have to remember. And in some ways, it's like reminiscent, where it's just like algebra, where it's like, okay, what you do to one side, you do to the other side. But in like these crazy ways, and with using these specific formulas. To the point where, at the higher level, maybe for things like finals, you can have like an equation sheet. And again, it depends on where you go, right, and where you work at. But in the place that I went to, they let you have this kind of cheat sheet where you can just fit as many equations as you can, because you know, it's important to know how to utilize them and not so much to kind of rote memorize what they were. That was their thinking. But the fact that you have all this for like one class, for like one semester, makes it very difficult, because maybe I feel like the lessons are fast-paced to the point where it's harder to stick, where you don't really sit with these, where you don't really get a you know, see how everything kind of recombines, how they all kind of work together. But the very specific part that the person who is here was asking about is about matrix systems of differential equations. And that is one of the small unique things wherein linear algebra kind of loops back into derivatives. They kind of work and combine together. Right. Sorry, checking my notes. And I think the person that I reached out for this still hasn't responded, which again is okay, right? Different time zones might have got the message wrong, although I don't. You know what? I'll keep going on with this recording, so that way even if they miss it, then they kind of see what's going on. Now, what I was going to do, right, and I'll just kind of do it now, was not necessarily jump right into that, because what I wanted to say is because of the faster pace of these, you know, higher level engineering courses, what you can do, and you could do this for any level of math that you're at, is first see if you can explain the concept, right? So if someone is struggling with, and again, I'm going to work back to a simpler example, exponents, right? 4 to the power of 2. If someone is struggling to explain what an exponent is, right? And, you know, maybe they hear it from their teacher, maybe they hear it in the lesson, and they're like, I don't really get it. I don't really know how it works. Like, why is it like this? You know, all of a sudden, it became this way, right? And so what I find helpful is when you have someone that needs help on a particular subject, is to kind of work backwards first and to say, okay, well, okay, this is where you're stuck now, but let's go back a bit. Do you understand the concept of multiplication, right? So like 4 times 4. And again, maybe it's a bit silly and absurdist to say, okay, well, yeah, I kind of get it, right? I kind of get multiplication, but I don't get it. And you're like, all right, then let's work backwards and let's go to addition, right? That might seem an absurdist example. 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. But when it comes to things like these kinds of higher levels of math, I actually find it to be very helpful, where if you're stuck on this part of understanding derivatives, maybe it's not so much this one part, maybe it's a thing like last week or a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was linear algebra altogether, right? Maybe it's even the concept of derivatives themselves, and somehow they got by the skin of their teeth up into this point. And so what I would do is ask this person who wanted to, you know, talk about matrix systems of differential equations, is first to say, okay, well, here's where you're stuck, but are there parts that would define or work within this things that you're stuck on? And so I find that to be very helpful, just so that way we can kind of have a base level that we can work on and then go up from there. But again, because of this branching thing, right? All you really need to know is derivatives for the most part. And then maybe there's just like the different flavor of the month kind of derivatives. Like, all right, here's how you apply it here, here's how you apply it here. All right, fine. Then I say, okay, cool. So maybe it's literally just this part that you're stuck on. All right. And then to that end, for this part for matrix systems, it has been so long since I worked on it that I thought it'd be like riding a bicycle. It's not. It's there's just a lot of things that I forgot. But what I was able to do is I was able to find a really good lecture. I know. Ideally, with tutoring, you don't want to have like, all right, well, I can't help you. Here's another thing that you could look at. You want to be able to kind of work with them and talk to them with it. But I mean, even so, right? To be able to sit with someone and say, okay, we're going to watch this thing that I found was helpful. Of all the, oh gosh, like 20 20 or so videos I've been looking on for like derivatives over the past week, and trying to recall this, you know, the things that you would need to learn up into this point and of itself. Here's the one that is exactly addressing what you need. And to that end, let's see if I can get a screenshot. YouTube? So to that end, I was able to find, and I would defer to this incredible person who was able to, I feel, explain matrix systems of differential equations in a very, very good way. Not necessarily because he was, you know, it's like an hour, right? Not necessarily because it was perfect. In fact, I think something that helped is as he was doing it, and I'm not, you know, trying to keep you all in suspense, but as he was doing it, you know, there's some minor mistakes. He's like, well, you know what, actually, maybe I should do it this way, or maybe I should do it this way. Because that's kind of the process in which you try to understand higher level math, where you kind of can see the thought process of the person teaching you. What I mean by that, again, a bit of a side, and I know it seems a little bit delaying, but this is kind of important. For anyone that's taking an engineering course, right? Or kind of any high level course where it's just lecture after lecture after lecture. A lot of these lectures are kind of prepared, like pre-made, right? Just kind of saying the same thing over and over again. But what I find would be helpful is if the person has some material that is pre-made, maybe kind of like notes, but then also things that they actually do on the fly of that material to kind of put it into practice, to kind of use it as example, to kind of see and to give a sense of how long does it take to solve this. What are some mistakes that someone could make? It makes it feel less that someone is talking at you, but more that they are doing the work with you, if that makes sense. So this particular lecture did exactly that. And let's see if I could get a good screenshot. Yeah, okay. I think this one's beautiful. And let me double check my messages. Still no response. Okay. Right. Well, we're doing this anyways. By the way, as a small aside, this was very scary. This was very scary to kind of figure out how I was going to teach a subject that, or tutor, a subject that I long forgot. And even though I am kind of fumbling this a little bit, even though I was scared, I'm kind of happy that I just still gave this the good old college try. Alright, this guy. Here we go. Steve. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Now, of all the videos that I've seen describing matrix systems of differential equations, this I find was the most helpful because, as you can see, it's not like slides. It's not like he's just talking about it. He's actually kind of doing the work as you go. And it wasn't just kind of on the different applications of this one derivative equation and how to do it. And here's one example. He kind of started from, well, I shouldn't say from scratch. This is kind of from scratch if you really look at it. Oh, wait, did it? Yeah, it copied the little symbol on top. That's funny. Alright. Oh, is there a way I could kind of get rid of that? Yeah, let me try that. Because it's kind of important. Okay. Take two. Oh, it shrinks. Okay. Here we go. Alright, System of n coupled first order ODEs. And for anyone that really wants to know, well, what is this thing? How do I explain derivatives? So, derivatives are wild. Derivatives is basically, in a nutshell. So, okay. You know how algebra, right? You're able to like do things kind of like a sundial with like trigonometry, and you're like, okay, let's see. So the sun's over here, and the shadows are this long, and then because of the angle or the whatever, then we could know that with this sundial that it is this time of day, right? It's using this kind of weird math where you're able to figure out how something is or where it is, or how big it is, or what the missing number that you're looking for by using other numbers, right? And then derivatives is kind of like the super lean, crazy version of that, where you would basically you'd have a function, right? Just this thing on a graph. Or even better, gravity. Here's a good example. All right. You have a ball, and you throw it up in the air, and it kind of goes up and up and up and up onto the other side. And again, I know this isn't exactly covering the matrix part right now, and I can understand that this might be a bit of a disappointment, but I'm trying to also explain the concept of derivatives to anyone who's watching who may not know what it is, or just kind of, rather than getting to like the jargon right away, just trying to go about this way to kind of put a practical explanation of why these things are important and what they do. Okay, so you get a ball and you throw it, and it goes in a trajectory, right? And then as the ball is moving through the air, though, it is affected, well, by a bunch of forces, like air resistance and whatnot, but you want to focus on mainly gravity, right? And gravity is just working on it every step of the way as it goes. And what you could think of is this ball being thrown is something that you could put on a graph. It could basically be a function, right? And to that end, if you figure out, okay, well, here I might have like one point where it is, right? And we might have another point where it is, right? And it could be, somewhere in the middle. It could be somewhere at the beginning or the end. It could be in literally any place, right? But by knowing the forces that are working on it, like gravity, and by knowing just simply 2 points on it, and knowing that it is and being able to come up with a function, you're able to figure out the slope of where it is at that point, which might not seem super special, but I mean, imagine if you're I don't know, how would you put it? Imagine you're throwing a basketball out of a cannon, right? All right, it's example time. Boom. And it hits a basketball thingy. I forgot what these are called. Oh my gosh, I am blanking so hard. So you have 2 points, right, of the basketball. You have the point right here where it hits, and you have the point right here, right? And you can kind of figure out like the slope and stuff. But then using those, by getting the derivative of that and figuring out the slope and how it travels, and you're able to consistently reproduce it with the same forces with this cannon, shooting it at this basketball, oh my gosh, I forgot what it's called. Backboard? Hoop? You're then able to also predict where it would land. And you don't even have to shoot the thing. You would just use pure math. which is wild. You would use math just based on these two observable points, where it was when it got shot and where it hit in a midway point, to figure out where it would land if it wasn't there, right? So to that end, maybe you might think, well, why is that important? Well, let's say, for example, you want to land a rocket. But you can't just be, you know, launching rockets. Well, okay, this is this is a very simplified version. Rockets have like way more to it. It's rocket science. It's literally much more bigger. But part of the steps that led to people figuring out things like rocket science is something like this, where you're able to have very little information. You're able to have very basic forces and basic understanding. You're taking all the chaos theory stuff out of it. And you're able to have a pretty good idea of, if you're here and it can go up to here, then how much do we need to get it to like somewhere over here, or to land over here? And so without, you know, constantly making rockets or constantly shooting things off into space, this is a piece of that puzzle, of that math. I mean, there's so much more. There's so much more. But again, when you're leading up to those things, like this was kind of a revolutionary idea, we could just have little tiny bits of information to figure out those things. Okay. Cool. So that's a thing. Alright, no response yet. I think he might have got the wrong time. Okay. Well, going forward. So what this part is how do you do that math? And to do that math, you use derivatives. And derivatives is where you kind of simplify and like mess with and get like weird values of equations, and then you make it like into an exponent, and then you do like oh my gosh, what are they called? It's this thing. Yeah, and they do like a lot of weird stuff with the calculator. Alright. But what they're trying to do here is see how derivatives work with linear algebra to be able to make something called a matrix system. Okay. And what a matrix system is basically when you work with derivatives, you kind of just have like an equation, right? I think it's something like, alright, please forgive me if I'm wrong. It's like d over dt equals y. And you'd have like an equation like this, right? And this is basically to get a derivative, and yeah. Hold on. Let me gather my thoughts for a moment. Okay. Yeah. So normally it would be with very few numbers, right? It'd be with a limit of numbers. In that, you would say, okay, you know, we have this equation here, or you could get crazy. You could go like d over dt equals, I don't know, y of 0 plus c to the e to the t. It's just, you could do like all kinds of crazy stuff with it, right? You can just have like this. Again, this could be a wrong equation. It could be totally dumb looking, but you could have all these properties and things you can kind of mix and match and do with it. Is that a good way to explain derivatives? Probably not. But the point is that there is a limit to the equation that you can write, right? There's only so much space on the board. However, a matrix is basically a way to have infinite numbers to an unknown value. Where instead of just saying, okay, you're going to solve the derivative for this thing, or you're going to have it for this part, let's see if I can actually, like, yeah, I can write on this. And so he illustrates it in this way, where you have this equation where it's not just this one and this one. It goes all the way to an unknown value of n. And more importantly, n minus 1, which is like, right before the very end. Okay. So it's an equation that can have like this huge volume of numbers that you don't even know how it ends. Might not even care. You can just solve for these large scale things. Alright. Now, another thing is that instead of just having numbers on a grid where you would... how do I put this? How do I simplify this stuff to the layman? That's tricky. You have variables that are unknown numbers, and then you get derivatives of those variables, and then you would organize them. Okay, I should be highlighting this. You have variables, and then you have the derivatives of variables, and then you would organize them in such a way that they make an equation that goes into infinity. But instead of just having an equation that kind of lies down and goes into infinity, the matrix system ultimately lets you have values that can be solved and put into a grid, right? But the thing is that because it goes into infinity, you can't quite draw it all out. You kind of have to use these ellipses, these dots, as you so wonderfully did, to say, okay, up into a certain point, we are going to have a grid system, and it goes up into about here, to where instead of, the one right before, right, it has a value. And then at the very end, for x of n, instead of having solid values, then all the variables in that row would be this weird stuff. I'll just put it that way. Alright, yeah. It wouldn't be an exact number, because the way it kind of works is that when you do like a grid matrix, they all kind of like line up. And if you can imagine just like the straight line, and at the very last one, when you get to the final one, then it's just like a formula of a bunch of variables. Okay. Wow. That is a bunch of word salad. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. I think I'm getting there. But the point is that he's able to explain this in a more eloquent way with kind of higher level jargon, so that someone who watches this and is kind of studying this sort of thing would be able to kind of be, oh, okay, I get it, right? I hope. Alright, so let's see. Let me go a bit forward in the video too. Now again, these are explaining math concepts with a formula that has a lot of variables, which again is very different from other kinds of math, I think, in that, if someone has like algebra, you could kind of, oopsie daisy, there can be like some solid numbers you can work with. And you know what? Why am I overlapping it? I can just move it over here. Yeah, let's do that. But here he's explaining concepts with variables so that way they can kind of plug and play, if you will, to understanding the matrix of systems of differential equations. Right. And here again he kind of puts that idea that this is the part of the engineering course wherein linear algebra and differential equations come together in what is a simple and clean formula. Although when expanded out and put into practice, it kind of looks like this big mess. But this is kind of the one you want to know for, I guess, a test. An endpoint, and when you solve equations. Now, as an aside, I think when I first talked about this, I got a little confused because there are parts of differential equations where you can use software, and that's usually used for like I forgot what they're called. It's like a slope grid. It's like this thing, where it kind of tells you like at all points in this thing, here's how the function like bends and wiggles. Right. Now, as it turns out, the best way to get good at using the software is actually by doing this math by hand. In that, the more you do the math by hand, again, a bit of an aside to the person that I was talking to, and just to kind of address the thing that I brought up, is that yes, it's actually important to do this stuff by hand, and yes, it is still metal, but the reason why is because when you do this math by hand, then you're able to make a better equation or make a better simplified formula that you could use to plug into the math software, so then it gets you better results. So, like, sorry, just blowing raspberries. So say for example, if you have like this big old complicated formula, right? And then you try to plug it into this like long string of things, it's a lot easier to mess it up. But if you can make it like kind of nice and simple, and then you plug it into the software, that's able to get you more cleaner, concise results with less room for error. That's basically what it is. Okay. Now, going back to this. I wish I could play this video, but I don't know if I can. I think I'm kind of relegated to screenshots. I can't do the audio, I believe. Or even if I did, I'm not sure quite how to properly give credit, and I do want to give credit to this fella. Let's see, do I want to go into eigenvalues? Yeah, I'll do the 3x3. Alright. Copy. By the way, as an aside, to the person who wanted help with this thing, if they come across this archive video of it, the best thing I can always recommend is if you're struggling with any part of your engineering classes, talk to your professor. Go to office hours. See if there's any kind of groups or organizations. I don't know how it is in New Zealand, but I assume that there is, like, you know, your professor, you talk to them. Yeah, I don't think it's that different. Because when you talk to your professor about directly, right? I'm reaching out to them and just say, you know, hey, do you have open office hours, or can I see you after class, or can I schedule like a meeting? And I'm just kind of like confused on this thing, right? They're probably gonna want to help you. I don't know of many, you know, math teachers or engineering teachers who want to see their students fail. They usually want to see them succeed. And to that end, I have seen students who were struggling in this kind of material find success because they went to those office hours, because they just simply talked about it. Because this is hard stuff. Like, it's okay to say, you know, it's hard, I don't quite get it. You know, what can you do to, do you have any advice? That sort of thing. So don't feel any shame for, you know, struggling on this. And again, this could apply to anyone at all levels of, I think, I guess almost any subject, but mostly math, right? If you're struggling and you're not sure and everything looks literally Greek to you, like if you're working on Algebra 1 and in your mind it's coming out to something crazy like this, then, you know, just say something. It can't hurt, right? Oh gosh, how do I even begin to explain this? Let's go with the baby version. Right here. Alright, so the derivative of, well, I mean, I guess it's kind of self-explanatory too, right? If someone who's at this level kind of looks at this grid, they think, okay, yeah, this kind of makes sense. That the derivative of x1, x2, and x3 is, you know, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, and then it's just this variable, right? That's a nice little 3 by 3. And again, the reason why this works, jeez. Yeah. I'm not sure. I think this is where I'm stuck. This is again the part where I would kind of ask them to kind of explain what they know, and help them understand where exactly in this lesson that they don't get, right? In that sense, if they see this thing and they see it makes sense, and then they see this thing and they're like, okay, no, I don't get this part. If they see this thing and they say, nope, it's all Greek to me, then we could work from there. Yeah, I think I've reached the end of my rope on this one, simply because this is like really crazy stuff. I know, probably not the thing you want to hear from someone who calls himself a VTutor. It's like, yeah, well, it's all Greek to me. But again, truth be told, I only had like a week to prepare for what people have been doing for like every semester for like years, to try to recall something I haven't heard in like a really long time. Oh boy. Well, shoot. This guy. If anyone is watching this and they want to learn anything about systems of differential equations, I can guarantee you that this video from this guy, Steve, he explained it in a way that made sense to me and that I am struggling to regurgitate because he kind of walked through the steps as he did it. There you go. Sometimes, you know, when it comes to helping others, you gotta know your limits. And this is mine. In that, I don't think that for this kind of thing, I would just direct someone to someone else that could help. I could give general tutoring help in the sense of like, you know, how to work through this, how to schedule things, how to, you know, personal skills, time management for success. But in terms of this level of math that I have not touched in like, oh gosh, a long time, it's a bit beyond me. Now, am I gonna totally give up? Kind of, for today, but not forever. I'll see if I can keep watching these guys' videos. Again, I literally just found this, and I kid you not, I've been watching like at work, listening to a bunch of different videos on differential equations, and none of them quite covered the matrix systems, right? They would kind of go over the basics. They would kind of go over other parts of it. And I had like a whole like bunch of playlists to go through, because these guys, they just go baller talking about these subjects in a lecture in a general sense. But I think this guy did it in the most concise, clean way. And yeah, there we go. All right, now if I am unlucky, then the person from last time will show up at like the last 5 minutes and say, "Where are you at?" To which I'll say, "Well, I gotta go to bed, man." But I mean, hey, maybe that's what it's about, right? Maybe it was meant to be. That actually, wait, can I post the link? Ooh, let me try that. Let's see. I think I can. I'm just doing a test, right? I don't know. There it is. That's your guy. Alright. Yeah. So if he ever comes by in like the last 5 minutes and to say, "Hey, can you teach me? Because there's a time mix-up," then hopefully this will be able to help. Oh man. Yeah, because going over the Yu-Gi-Oh thing and those deck numbers was a bit easier to kind of explain and go over. Here for this, again, I think I've reached a limit on my skill. And I probably should specify that a lot of what I do isn't just math, it's probably like algebra. Although linear algebra is kind of its own thing too, huh? Alright. Well, I still got 8 minutes. And I don't want to quite end early. Oh. What to do, what to do. Yep. This was a wash. But hey, you know what? Not every week can be a winner. Sometimes it's about facing your fears. Just to kind of reminisce a little bit. Yeah, so during these engineering classes, I remember having something called, like, I don't know, stress dreams. You know, where you're stressing about the work and the assignments, and it kind of affects that thing. And so to anyone that is at this level of math and has stress dreams, I'll tell you, hey man, school ends. School ends, and then the rest of your life goes on. So to whatever problems that may be happening when you're trying to struggle to understand derivatives, or differential equations, or linear algebra, or oh gosh, yeah, just all this stuff, then you know it's not going to be something that you're going to be doing and struggling with your whole life. I'll put it that way. It gets better. It gets way better. And so, you know, do what you can. If you succeed, great. If you don't, hey, you know, there's still the rest of your life, right? You got it. Because also for every for every engineering class, it seems like, oh my gosh. Well, again, I assume it depends on the school and maybe how they handle business. But sometimes there's a fair amount of students that don't see things all the way through, right? When it comes to other subjects, maybe they have like a higher retention rate to be as like seniors and graduate. For things like engineering, less so. So for anyone studying math and that sort of thing, and you're struggling, yeah, it's gonna be okay. Even if you fall through the cracks on that stuff, you're gonna be fine. Anything else I could talk about this? Yeah, it's frustrating. Because I knew this stuff. And I could have sworn it'd be like riding a bike, right? But I've forgotten so much, and it was so crazy paced that well, maybe I could go over the basics of how to do a derivative. But that's not really relevant when you can have, like, you know, simple examples like this. Derivatives are cool. Derivatives are revolutionary, and they can be used in a lot of things to be able to figure out area, I believe volume, and they're actually yeah, I hear people can even use them in Wall Street, to where you figure out the trajectory in which, you know, a stock is going up and down, to figure out where it might be going next, or if there's like some kind of function or equation of this thing, if it's like I don't know. This is what I've heard, right? Hearsay. But with derivatives, there's like a lot of application that you can apply for both in the higher levels of math, science, but also in finance, apparently. So that's cool. I think the only problem is that it is taught, at least in my experience, at a very fast pace. You don't just sit with it and kind of work with these things for a very long time. Which, again, makes sense, right? You only have so many years of, like, higher level college courses. And, you know, it might be, like, bloating to kind of keep going there. And maybe even for the career, they only want, like, a basic level understanding. Or maybe they don't even need it at all, right? I mean, yeah. So, who knows? The world's a big place. And of all the guys that I know, that actually did things like computer science, mechanical engineering, even bioengineering, of all of them, like, only one guy is still doing it as, like, his career. So, hey, it's a tough gig out there too, right? Because when you're trying to be an engineer, it's cool and it's fun, right? But you're not just competing for job positions against engineers that at the school. You're also competing for should probably join this. You're not just competing, like, locally. You're also competing maybe against, like, a whole region or a whole country, right? If it's like a really big international kind of business. And so, you know, the pool of talent that they can draw from is pretty wide. And then what else? Yeah, so of all those guys that I know, I think only one is doing it. I mean, maybe two, if you count, like, accounting, but that's different. That's not quite the same. Yeah. Yeah, one guy got it, and I'm so happy for him. I'm so proud of him. The rest of us are living different non-engineering lives, despite the fact that we did all this. So there's that. Alright, and it's about time. So I guess this was a bit of a dud, but hey, you know what? That's okay. I'll just send him a message and say, hey, totes fine. I found a great source that might help. Send him a direct link. There you go. Best of luck. Alright, and that's it for today. So, to the person who wanted help, you know, hey, I hope you still get help. I wish you the absolute best of luck with this level of engineering. As I understand, it's probably the second semester, and you maybe only have like a month or two left. But yeah, this is where things get even harder. and you know, I honestly hope for the best. But I think I'll probably adjust my my catchphrases and mottos and things to not just be math in general, but kind of more algebra. You know, to be safe. to spare myself of this embarrassment again. But hey, it's all fun. It's fine. I'm doing this for fun. Alright. So there you go. That's today. And I'll try again next week. Maybe a subject that I could, you know, be more specific on. And less kind of general life, college, navigating the engineering courses on. Alright. Until then, have a good night. Oh man. By the way, I was sweating about this. I was so stressed. I was so nervous for this going over this thing. I'm like, man, I totally forgot. I have no idea what I'm doing. But you know, I did it anyways. I tried. Yes, I think ultimately, as far as going over a exact lesson plan on this subject, it's a bit of a fail. But you know what? It helps me learn my limits as far as being able to tutor on something that I haven't touched in a long time. And that has its own merits too. I mean, and the best thing is that this is I get a rest now. I get to plan out for next week. I get to laugh at myself as I look at this VOD and think like, oh man, what a mess. It's gonna be great. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.